Hello, my name is Debra Matthews, and I'm the new coordinator for the Financial Leadership and Ministry program that's funded by Lilly and is being instituted here at Memphis Theological Seminary. When I decided to apply for this job, the first question that I asked is, why do we even need a Financial Leadership or Ministry program? And then I looked at the things that Lilly looked at and other supporting agencies and realized that I was picture perfect for why this program came into existence. I did graduate with an astronomical amount of student loan debt. I did need help in understanding financial planning. I'm not ashamed to say that because I came to seminary to do what Paul admonished Timothy to do, which is to study to show myself approved. Only I managed to get through seminary knowing the Old Testament and the New Testament and all these new theological terms. But when I read a paper that first introduced the acronym CFO, I walked around wondering, what does CFO mean? And I finally understood that CFO meant Chief Financial Officer. And I realized that I had no idea what a chief financial officer did or what a chief financial officer was and how that would impact my ability to do the ministry to which God called. And I understood that this program was called Empowering Faith Leaders to Practice Financial Excellence. Well, what would hinder us from doing that? I grew up hearing people in the faith community say, the Lord will provide. Well, the Lord will provide, and the Lord did provide, and what we have now is this program. And so I think that my primary reason for sitting here, being on tape, shaking in my shoes, is I'd like to invite you on the journey with me. This is a journey we will take together. You are going to go on the website and see some of the most prominent ministers and theologians in the faith community talk about the need for this program. But I thought perhaps maybe you would need to put my name with this face and say, come, tarry together with me as we try to figure out some of the things that we teach in class. How do we have a holy conversation, the holy conversation that Gil Renda and Alex Mann speak of in their book, which coincidentally is another book that we teach in the course that we are offering, that all Masters of Divinity students are required to take. How do we talk about money and faith? Well, we talk about it by listening to other theologians and other financial planners talk about it in a compilation of that exact subject, money and faith. Neither poverty nor riches, which provides a biblical theology of possessions. And I really believe that MTS is situated perfectly to discuss that. We're in an inner city like Memphis. We're close to the Mississippi Delta. Right across the river is Arkansas, the natural state, and they grow everything. How do we keep biblical concepts in a contemporary age? How do we start viewing what we give and how we administer what has been given to glorify God by incorporating all of these biblical and theological perspectives? Well, it just doesn't fall out of the air. And that's what we're here for. We are here to become better financial leaders. We are here to be able to talk to our congregations in ways that transforms their understanding about giving and stewardship, so that as congregations become transformed, they can transform the communities in which they have been called to serve. We look at churches as cities that sit on the top of a hill. Well, our cities, our churches should not be made in splendor, sitting on the top of a hill where the community is depressed and people in the community don't have good skills and don't have a biblical and a theological understanding of what it means to worship God in our giving. One of the things that we've talked about in the class when the Jamesons were here, and if you want to know who the Jamesons are, we'll put that resource up on our website for you. But we talked about gleaning. Every year I go out and I glean fields because I love turnip greens and collard greens and kale. And I glean the fields. Well, these are fields that are planted by farmers. In Arkansas, the main crops are corn for our gasoline, rice, and soybeans. But that requires a second step. So a number of farmers, they'll go out and they'll glean the edges of their fields with greens or sweet potatoes because they are adhering to the biblical tenet, the teaching about gleaning. Well, we're not farmers now. Some of us are lawyers, some of us are doctors, some of us are school teachers, various vocations. But what do we have left for the people to glean? When we leave our jobs, our secular jobs, do we count those as vocations? Like farmers, leaving something for the people to glean. Giving is an act of worship. And we've been so taught to look at it as the law. Malachi, you're stealing from God, driving stolen cars, living in stolen houses. My sons actually thought that they were walking in stolen tennis shoes if they didn't tithe. But what if we are truly committed to worshiping God? Then even everything that we give should be an act of worship. How will this program help you? How will this program help me? How will this program help our congregations? How will this program help our community? First of all, it will give clergy tangible and practical rules and applications on how to see money. Second of all, we believe that we will also teach lay people in the community, first and foremost, how to make sure that your pastor, your minister is not overburdened by student loan debt. And then give your pastor ways in which to preach and teach about giving and about stewardship. And even more importantly, we will turn those rules and regulations into spiritual disciplines. Because here in the Bible Belt, we still adhere to the fact that God created us to worship. And we worship God in our giving of our gifts, of our time, of our talent. And so we are seeking to gain a greater understanding of how we incorporate those things in how we worship God. One of the most important things, I think, are the barriers. Sounds like a good idea. We're going to get lay people involved. We're going to get faith leaders involved. We're going to get the academic, theological communities involved. Sounds like an excellent idea. It must be so. Lily has already said so. Memphis Theological Seminary has developed a course that will teach us that. So why is it so difficult to get students to participate in this program? Well, speaking personally, we're embarrassed. We're embarrassed because if you talk to the average financial person in the community, they would tell you that ministers and clergy have the worst credit rating of most people that they encounter. We are embarrassed because we've come to seminary, spent all of this money on a seminary education, and we left seminary without a biblical, theological, and practical understanding of money and how it impacts our lives personally, and by extension impacts the lives of the people that we serve in our congregations and the community in which God created our churches to serve. And my final question, I don't want to sound preachy, but how do we help each other on this journey? I don't believe that this grant by Lily is an accident or coincidence. I think that thoughtful people came up with a thoughtful response of how to deal with this problem that affects our entire nation, a nation built on spending more than we have. How do we get back to those foundational beliefs? How do we help each other? Well, you help me, and I'll help you, and we'll make this journey together. And my prayer is that we will learn from each other. We will learn from one another so that we can make the changes that are facing other people coming into seminary. There's a book called 7 Rules for Life: How to Take Control of Your Financial Future. It is a book based on biblical and theological concepts. And although we live in a secular world where financial literacy is crucial for our conversation as faith leaders and people called to ministry in various venues of the faith, once we know and understand that, we can incorporate that into our lives. We can incorporate that into our worship. And eventually we will transform not only ourselves, our congregations, but our communities. I invite you to allow me to take this part of the journey with you, because God has called us all to ministry, and we want to have you be the best ministers, the best clergy, the best lay people in order to accomplish what God has called us to do. And in closing, I thought this was a very, very good book that I received. It's called Debt: Taming the Tempest, a team approach to reducing and managing student debt. This is the Auburn Studies Taming the Tempest, a team approach to reducing and managing student debt. We're a team. I'm here to be a team leader. And eventually, when you leave seminary, you'll be team leaders too, in your congregations and in your communities. And God bless you.